Dan with Guardian Mold Prevent here. Want to take a look at a basement with you that's located in Darien, Illinois. We're going to pan around the basement here, and I want you to notice how clean this basement looks. There appears to be no real problems at a first glance. The carpet is very clean. There is no staining on the drywall whatsoever. The trim has some discoloration, but very little, and only in sporadic areas around this basement. The smell in this basement is very clean. There's not a musty odor. There's no signs of water anywhere. But the purpose of this video is to show you what happens when you call in a contractor who is not a mold remediator. Just Joe Handyman says he's going to take care of the mold problem for you. So we're looking at the back side of the wall we were just looking at the finished side of, and as you can see at the bottom, there's a cut in the drywall, and about 8 to 12 inches of the drywall at the bottom of this wall has been replaced by a regular contractor who told the homeowner that they would take care of their issue. Now you can see nothing was done with the floor plate. They had walked all over the drywall with their feet and got drywall dust all over everything. But what they didn't take care of in this basement is this area in the utility room where there is paneling on the wall. Because the homeowner never saw that there was an issue in this space, the contractor just skipped it altogether. But what happens when a basement gets wet is areas where there's paneling or trim over drywall will hold moisture a lot longer and actually wick moisture up the wall further. So when we pull back the paneling here, you're able to see that there is quite a bit of mold growth on this wall. And we're going to take a look on the joining wall here, and you'll see that there's also mold growth on this wall. Very stereotypical of what happens when moisture gets into a wall where you've got paneling or baseboard over the top of it. In the other areas of the basement, the contractor got away with just cutting up the drywall. Of course, he didn't treat it for anything. He didn't clean it, scrub it. He didn't coat it to prevent any mold growth from going forward. But in this area, it wasn't visible to the homeowner. Now, something else, another area the homeowner just never noticed was on the actual exposed foundation wall in this area where the water softener and the furnace is, you can see that the paint coating on this exterior foundation, basement foundation wall has quite a bit of mold. Now I want to talk to you about terms. Porous material are things like drywall, trim, insulation, paneling that get moldy very readily when they see moisture because they are porous. So those items need to be discarded. Semi-porous items like wood framing, the framing throughout this basement, are items that can be cleaned because they are semi-porous, and we can achieve proper mold remediation on those surfaces, and then also surfaces that are non-porous like concrete foundation walls. Those surfaces can also be remediated properly. Now, the right way to take care of a mold problem would be to set up containment in the basement. We bring in an air scrubber, which is a negative air machine, and we set up negative air pressure so that we're not exchanging air with the rest of the living space while we're working. Once we've achieved negative air pressure, we would then remove all of the porous materials that we saw. The drywall, trim, insulation, the paneling would come out, and we would cut those items up off the floor and bag them, tie the bags, and dispose of them. Then we would treat all of your semi-porous and non-porous surfaces, so your concrete, your framing. Those items would get treated with the biocide and then scrubbed down, and lastly they're coated with a acrylic-based mold-resistant coating. Now we're looking here real quickly at what an air scrubber looks like. It's a machine that has a 12-inch HEPA filter in it, removes all the mold spores from the air, helps us to get the air quality back to an acceptable level inside the living space. Now I want to look at what it would look like after the surfaces have been scrubbed, HEPA vacuumed, biocided, and then treated with that acrylic-based mold-resistant coating. As you can see here, everything looks clean and neat. All of the framing has been vacuumed and scrubbed. We treated it with that biocide, and then we put a product on that will prohibit mold growth on the coating surface, and everything's good to go in this basement. Now, as we look up into the attic, you're going to be able to see that there is some mold staining from the soffit or the lower portion of the roof, and it comes up about 4 to 6 feet in this attic space. You can see up high everything looks fairly clean, but as we pan down you can see the discoloration on the plank board roofing. This attic space has blown in cellulose insulation. It looks like the R factor is not up to par, but the main reason that this attic space has mold growth is because of poor ventilation. It's condensating in the wintertime because the warm air is being trapped. Now you can see in this diagram that at the upper portion of the roof you've got a mushroom vent. At the overhangs you've got ventilation, so cold air should come up from the lower portions of the roof, force the warm air out through the top, and create an atmosphere that is as cold as it is in the attic space as it is outside. So if you've got a temperature differential between the air temperature in the attic and the surfaces, you'll condensate and then you will get mold growth like we showed in the previous footage of this attic.